Hello everyone and welcome back to Mariana Math Books. My name is Mariana and today I am here with my mid-year freakout book tag HISTORATHON edition. If you are subscribed to my channel, you probably saw that I already uploaded the mid-year freakout tag in which I answered without any history books. But if you are following my channel, you also know that I am a big participant of HISTORATHON, which is a reading event, year-long reading event for reading non-fiction history. I will link more information about it down below. This year, HISTORATHON has taken over my reading and I have been reading so much history. I have been having so much fun reading history, and when I was filming my mid-year freakout, I could think of answers from HISTORATHON for every single question. So I thought it would be fun to do a HISTORATHON edition of this tag, in which obviously I will answer every single question of the tag, including the fictional crush question, with answers from my history non-fiction reading that I've been doing for HISTORATHON. Without further ado, let's just go ahead with the questions. Everyone knows what this tag is. I will link the creators of the tag down below. And yeah, let's go ahead with the questions. So question number 1 is, what is your favorite book so far in the year? For this one, if you have seen my videos before, you may guess the question or the answer, and that is When Montezuma Met Cortes by Matthew Restall, which is a book about the event we call as the Spanish Conquest, which analyzes the way that the story of the conquest has been told. The premise of the book is literally analyzing the narrative of the conquest and why it has been so successful and how purposefully constructed it has been as a story. It is amazing. If you want to watch a more in-depth review, I did a video where I reviewed 5 books about the Spanish conquest. I'm very proud of that video because I never review books in a such organized fashion. So if you want to watch a more in-depth review for this book, because it does have mixed reviews on Goodreads and I don't think it is for everyone, even though I love it so much, go check out my video. I will link it down below and you can get a more in-depth review there. The next question is the favorite sequel you've read so far in the year. And there are some non-fiction history series that I want to read. I haven't read any, but I have an interpretation for this question, and actually it's a book that I was supposed to have already read before I answered this tag, and I haven't read it yet, and so it's more a sequel that I want to read this year. So I have this gorgeous box set published by UNAM, which is the National University of Mexico, the biggest public university in Mexico and a very well recognized institution worldwide, and they publish amazing books. I am currently obsessed with UNAM books and their website. It is a danger to my wallet. Luckily they also have an open access website, but recently I bought this box set which contains several of these almost like short pamphlets. These are called reading material. That's like the type of collection, and they have several collections of their reading material series in different topics. This particular box set that I own is about 1521, so the year of the fall of Tenochtitlan, and each pamphlet is a different mini biography. Not even biography, they are more like essays, articles about different figures and different topics from the Spanish conquest and the fall of Tenochtitlan. I got the box set because I want to read all of them. Number 2 is about Isabel Moctezuma, who was the daughter of Moctezuma, the second to last, one of the last kings of the Aztecs. Isabel Moctezuma, she had a very interesting life. She ended up marrying a Spanish man and taking a Spanish name, and this is about her. I really want to read it. I read the first one of these, which is about Malintzin, and it is fantastic. So for quarter 3 I would like to focus on reading the whole box set. Let's see if it's something I can accomplish. The next 2 questions are the anticipated release and newest release questions, and I have answers both in Spanish and in English for these questions, but I'm going to give you the answer in English so that it's a book that you can pick up if it sounds interesting to you. The newest release that I haven't read yet but want to is Indigenous Science and Technology, Nahuas and the World Around Them by Kelly S. McDonough, which is a book I was very excited to find out about because there is this discourse about how the Europeans and the Spanish, specifically in this case, brought scientific thought to the Americas. Usually, or throughout history, the Mesoamericans have been depicted as, people who didn't have scientific thought, didn't have really deep thought. Although it's funny because I feel like everyone knows that the Maya were amazing astronomers, but somehow Mesoamericans are still considered as behind, even though there is that knowledge. And so I was very excited to discover this book. So from what I can see, each chapter is dedicated to a different scientific or technological area. And really excited to read that one. And then the most anticipated release is, this title is a bit longer, Nahuatl Nations, Language Revitalization and Semiotic Sovereignty in Indigenous Mexico by Magnus Farao Hansen, who, if you follow on Twitter, is super interesting. And this is about linguistic sovereignty, as the subtitle suggests. I find linguistics in terms of just in general linguistics fascinate me, but specifically from what I've been reading, I find studies about local indigenous languages fascinating because of the way that I was raised and the things that I was and wasn't taught in school as a Mexican. I am now discovering a whole world that I didn't know about, and that honestly has me really shocked, and shocked but not surprised, that it's not taught. But I'm very, very interested in diving deeper into the topic. The next question is the biggest disappointment, and I don't think I've read any book that I would call bad in this so far this year. There have been books where I'm hot and cold with them. There have been books where there are parts that I think, oh my god, this is so bad, and then it turns out to be great. Again, you can check out my review video for further details about that. So the book that I'm going to talk about is a book that it's not bad, but I expected to like it more, and I expected something different. And that is Fires of Lost, Sex in the Middle Ages by Catherine Harvey, which is as the title suggests, about sex in the Middle Ages. So I think that because this is a topic that concerns often women, and because women aren't that studied throughout history because they are women, there isn't a lot of, or there aren't a lot of sources, written sources for women topics. And therefore, if you read books about women in the Middle Ages, you will often come across the same sources. Now, obviously, this book is not about women, but it does talk a lot about how women were thought of or expected to be, etc., regarding sexual conduct in the Middle Ages. Um, and because I had already read one book about women in the Middle Ages, and I'm reading one book about motherhood in the Middle Ages, they both use the same sources that this one uses, and I think that they use them in a better way. Specifically, what can be a bit confusing about this book is, so the Middle Ages span a great period of time, right? So of course, if you're writing a general history of the Middle Ages, it can be, I'm sure it's very tricky as an author. I don't know how I would do it. And I've seen different ways of authors to cover the topic. And I think that there are authors who are very good at organizing very different sources from different periods and different geographical locations, and organizing them in a way where the narrative of the book makes sense. I think she struggled a bit with that. I think it's a book that if I had read it when I had first started reading history, I would have thought it was super interesting and I would have thought much higher of it. But because I now have read more, I have points of comparison, and I don't think she does it as well as other people do. And specifically in regards to women, as I said, I literally have two books to compare to from this year that I think have done it better. And so that's why it's the biggest disappointment, but I still found it interesting and I still enjoyed reading it, and I still got some fun facts. I feel like this is the type of book you read to get like fun trivia, you know? So yeah, I wanted to give different answers for every question, but for the next question I'm going to have to repeat. And that is the biggest surprise. And the biggest surprise of the year is When Montezuma Met Cortes by Matthew Restall. And specifically, the reason why it was a surprise is because I didn't expect it to be so radically anti-colonialist. I did not expect that. I was interested in the book because of the title, because I'm obsessed with Cortes and Moctezuma meeting, and I read, and because the author is not Mexican, not Latin American, not French, I didn't expect it to hit so hard against the Mexican American War, the Spanish conquest, like all those types of things. And later I started reading that Matthew Restall is kind of like a pioneer in new conquest history, and now I'm looking for more new conquest historians. But at the time, it was super surprising, and it was like a surprising in a great way. New favorite author, and okay, so this is a strange question because there are different types of favorite authors, and I talk about it all the time when I do this tag and in other videos. I talked about it in my original version of the tag, so I'm not going to talk about it. But if you think of like an author that I read this year that I thought, wow, oh my god, amazing, I want to read everything they have written, that first initial reaction was with Matthew Restall, and I googled his bibliography, and he has another one called The Seven Myths of the Spanish Conquest, I think, that I do want to read. But then he has other ones that are super specific about topics that I'm not particularly interested in, and so I'm not interested in those books. And so I feel like with history and with nonfiction, that happens when you have an author that you love, but maybe they write topics that you're not super interested in. I don't know, like I loved Stacy Schiff's Cleopatra biography. I didn't read it this year, I'm just giving an example. But I'm not interested in her Samuel Adams biography. So that type of thing. And so I'm going to answer with an author that I love as an author. So I have read one book by him and I loved it. And he has a lot of other work that I am interested in, but then I also I'm a fan of his in terms of like his work and what he does and his presence in social media. I follow him on Twitter. He's everywhere. He's part of a group in Mexico that of academics who do lectures on different topics. He does them on archaeology, but there are different academics, different scholars in different areas, and he's a member of that association. And then he's also co-founder of a website that is for archaeology, where they compile different articles and studies for archaeology, and so he's also always promoting that. He is also part of the Templo Mayor dig, which is for the Aztec temple in Mexico City, and so he coordinates, like he recently coordinated an exhibit of the Aztecs in Japan, and so he coordinates like the pieces that go back and forth. So like as a scholar, I really admire him, and that is Leonardo Lopez Luján. I read one book by him this year and I loved it, and I have other books that I want to read. I have other books by him on my shelf that I want to read. They are all in Spanish. That's the only thing, he's not translated, so I can't recommend you anything, but he would be my newest favorite author. Then you have the newest fictional crush question, and I am going to answer it because I am happy to report that this year there has been way less snobbery towards this question, and I feel like people are understanding that this is just for fun. No one is going to make you marry your fictional crush. We, the people who have fictional crushes, we as a people, we know that these characters aren't real. We know that you can't actually physically marry them. We know it's fun. So happily, there's way less snobbery this year, but what I have seen a lot of is a lot of people saying, oh, I can't answer this question because I don't read romance. And that, like, you don't need to read romance to get a fictional crush. It's like real life. You go to a party and maybe you see someone and you think, oh, I have a crush on them. Or you go to a lecture and the scholar giving the lecture is super smart and you're like, oh wow, I have a crush on them, an intellectual crush on them. And this person is not whispering romantic things in your ear. Doesn't matter, you can still crush on them. It's the same way with characters, right? And so because this is history, I would like to answer with a historical crush, like a specific historical figure. I can't answer that at this particular moment. I'm still on the search for my historical figure crush, but I'm going to answer with a group of people that could be my fictional crush, and that would be the Aztec Eagle warriors. I mean, this is a modern illustration, but like, come on, like, yeah, fictional crush. Aztec Eagle warriors. then we have the newest favorite character. And again, this is history, so I'm going to mention a historical figure. And without a doubt, that is Malintzin. Malintzin, I am obsessed with her. Obsessed with her. She is amazing. She is interesting. She was a super smart translator. She was a super strategic. I would love to have a time machine to go back and see all of the influence that she had on all of the events that happened. If you want to hear more about her, you can watch my conquest video, part 1. I haven't done part 2. It's coming, I promise. And I would love to make a video specifically about her, but I always promise videos and then I don't film them, so I'm not going to promise that. But Malintzin, without a doubt. Then we have Book That Made You Cry, and I'm sorry for repeating again, but for this one I'm going to mention when Montezuma met Cortes, and I don't actually physically cry in books, but there are books that make me want to cry. And the epilogue of this book made me want to cry in a good way, like emotional tears. So the epilogue of this book is Matthew Restall walking throughout the Zócalo, the center plaza in Mexico City. So he's like chronicling his walk and telling you the different things he sees, while at the same time telling you what happened there in the year of the conquest. So he'll walk down the center plaza and say, oh, I am looking at the National Palace and this is where Moctezuma did this and this and this. And it is so beautiful. Honestly, so beautiful. It made me want to cry. I had never had that experience with a history book before. And then the next one is a book that made you happy. And for this one, I'm going to answer a book that made me laugh out loud. And that would be The Once and Future Sex by Eleanor Janega, which is about women in the Middle Ages. Eleanor Janega also has a podcast called We're Not So Different podcast that she co-hosts, and it's also hilarious. That's how I first knew Eleanor Janega, and then I saw she had her book. I listened to the audiobook and she narrates it and she is so funny, but the book is so funny in general. I then bought a physical copy, which is now on my shelf. I loved the book and it made me laugh. If you want another super funny thing, there is not a book, but it could be a side quest for HISTORATHON. I would highly recommend the Weird Medieval Guys podcast. Also super funny. I love that genre of two hosts saying funny things about the history of the Middle Ages. Fantastic genre of podcast. Then we have favorite video you've made. And I would say my review for the 5 books about the conquest. And that is because I really did think about the structure, and I think it's my best book review that I've ever done, and it's 5 books and it's a super long video and I love super long videos, so that would be one. And then also I'm really proud of my Spanish conquest video part 1. Part 2 is coming, I promise. So I'm going to link both down below and please go watch them and comment. I'm so proud of both those videos. Then it's the most beautiful book you've bought. And for this one, I have 2 answers, and I'm going to turn the camera around so because I want to flip through them and show them to you. They are both beautiful. They are both amazing. I have bought so many beautiful books. I own so many beautiful history books, but those 2 are amazing. The first book is Monumental Mexica Sculpture. Mexica is the correct name for the Aztecs, and it is about the monumental stone structure that they did, stone sculptures that they did. The book is by Eduardo Matos Moctezuma, who is one of my favorite Mexican archaeologists, and Leonardo López Luján, who is the one I told you is my newest favorite author. It is a super cool book because it is about the way the sculptures during the Mexica time, what they meant, what they signified, how they were used, etc. But then it's also about the discovery of the sculptures and their impact in culture and in the future. As you can see, it's beautiful. It has a lot of photographs and illustrations, and it is like full page double spread illustrations as well as the text. It could almost pass for like a gorgeous coffee table book, but it also has a lot of great information, articles, and everything discussing the sculpture, the Mexica society, and everything you need to know about the topic, as well as the beautiful photographs and illustrations that you are seeing on the video. There are also some amazing fold out pages. There are several foldouts, like the one I am showing you at the moment. This one I'm showing you is from the, I believe, the Tizoc sculpture, but there are several of those foldouts throughout the book, as well as just the beautiful pictures and illustrations, as you can see now that I'm flipping through it. Absolutely beautiful book. Cannot wait to read this one. The next one is actually a children's nonfiction picture book about a Mexican scientist from the 16th century. I love the title because it is the name of the scientist, and the subtitle is a unknown Mexican scientist. It is really, really, really beautiful. I found out about this book because it won a prize that is done for anthropology and history books, and this one won the prize for the best children's and youth book. And so I immediately ordered it, and I am so happy that I did. As you can see, the inside illustrations are absolutely beautiful. He was a botanist in the age of the great botanists and explorers, like Alexander Humboldt. Speaking of Humboldt, the publishing house does have other biographies like this one, including one of Humboldt, one of the Emperor Nezahualcóyotl, and others in the collection that I would love to check out. This one I already read and I really love it. Then final question is books you need to read for the rest of the year, and I'm going to just generally answer with the books I want to read for Q3 and Q4. I'm not going to give you a specific list of books, because you know me, I give you a list of books and then I read something completely different. I might film a pile of possibilities depending on time and filming and stuff, because there are so many videos I want to film and I feel like I'm behind on filming. So I don't know if I'm going to film a pile of possibilities. But there's a whole shelf, and that's just one shelf. I have more piled up next to me that you can't see. And over it, I have a lot of books. And Q3 and Q4 are coming, and so Q3 and Q4 is the answer for this question. And then the final question is tag people, and I'm not going to tag individual people, but I am going to tag the participants and hosts of HISTORATHON if they want to do it. I know not everyone loves the MIDYEAR FREAKOUT tag, and not everyone loves it as much as I do to film two versions of it. But if you feel inclined to answer it, it was fun. I would love to see your answers. I would love for you to tag me if you do. So there, that would be my tag. And that will be it for the video today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon with another bookish video. And in the meantime, I wish you happy reading.